Welcome, Mere Mortalites, to another round of the conversations. Today, I had a chat with my friend KIERAN NOLAN for his second appearance on the Mere Mortals, the first being in number 62, where we talked about IPFS, the interplanetary file system. We talked about learning development for young kids and teaching in primary schools, and we talked about blockchain technology. This was a more casual chat, and it was a catch-up for us. So we talked about Bitcoin a lot, going to meetups, being able to use it in real life, his experiences meeting Roger Ver. We also talked about value for value, how he's implementing this with his School of Bitcoin and all of the other numerous hats that he is wearing. This is a value for value podcast. I really would appreciate if you can boost and send in some monetary support for the value that you're getting from this. 30% of it will go to Kieran because he does have a Lightning address. And if you want to know more about how to do this, please go to meremortalspodcast.com/support. Other than that, I do hope you enjoy this conversation. I wanted to ask you about meetups to start up with. Funnily enough, I was checking out our last convo, which we had in November of 2021. I don't think I really asked you about Bitcoin at all, or meetups, or like half the things that we talk about nowadays. We're talking about IPFS and rocket shoes and things like that. You're up here with mixing with the blockchain peeps at the moment.
Yeah.
How do you find that? So I get from the most that you're more of a Bitcoiner, but what do you find with like the mixing between other crews and whatnot? Because you seem to go around a lot of circles.
Yeah, I do. I suppose like for me, like it's been interesting actually because I've had like the last year or so been quite orange and like orange pilling people, and I think like for the monetary aspect, I think it's really important to. I think there's a group of people in the crypto community that are like, get rich quick, you know, and this is what we want to do.
There's a fair few of that.
There's a lot of that, right? And I think the Bitcoiners are sort of more altruistic, which is sort of attractive to me. So that's like why I've gravitated towards that. And obviously the stuff with El Salvador, like what's happening with third world countries, like the unbanked, that's really important, and that's what the technology is built for, right? So it's kind of the opposite of crypto. But I will say, like from working with the Blockchain Academy, so I've started as the head of training fairly recently. So I've been there for like 2 months, I think. Mm-hmm. It's really weird. So I've started there at a new primary school at the same time. So I'm doing higher ed and primary school kids at the same time, learning about like how they sort of learn differently, and then integrating like this like sort of cutting edge technology, I suppose, in both. But what I've noticed with the Blockchain Academy, so the students from there, the thinking around disintermediation has been really interesting. So they've come up with, so they basically with their course, so the diploma and advanced diploma, you have to take like a centralized business model and then decentralize it. That's essentially what you have to do. And these are the processes to do it and rah. So it doesn't really get into the nitty gritty of the technology so much. It's more about the thinking around decentralization. So they've got all these students who are like obviously working as well, and some of them in sort of mundane jobs, you might say. And they're sort of picking apart these jobs and looking at different things that you can disintermediate. So essentially fixing like legacy stuff. So it's kind of like made me change my mindset a little bit. So obviously I'm not down with any of the crypto get rich quick schemes, but in terms of the tech and the creativity that it brings out in people, my mind sort of flipped a little bit with that. So I'm like, yeah, cool. If you want to use some other blockchain tech or decentralized tech to do this thing that you're doing. So like, for example, there's one guy who lost his house in the floods. So I think it was Lisbon. Is that like the space in Queensland that like there was massive floods?
Would have probably been Milton, West End. Those are the areas right by the river.
He did mention, but I've like forgotten. Yeah. So I'm doing one-on-ones with him.
Yeah. So these were the floods, probably the recent ones.
I think the recent ones. Like
started 2022. There was some big floods. Yeah.
I think pretty hardcore. So he's taken that. He's doing this blockchain course, and he wants to build a decentralized community. So he's got like money for a massive block of land, and he wants to do the whole thing off grid. Like he's a solar expert, and like all this cool decentralized tech like involved with that. And that's all kind of sparked from Bitcoin, right? So Satoshi's white paper has now basically made this guy creative enough, like in his thinking, to build out this like decentralized community. So it's like kind of, I suppose, akin to like what he wants to do is like akin to like communes that they used to have like in the 70s and stuff,
Yeah.
but like a tech version of that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is awesome. Like he sold me. I was like, oh, where? Like, how do I sign up to this place? It sounds amazing. Like, so like shared electric vehicles and all that sort of stuff. He's doing like the whole thing. I'm like, whoa, this is nuts.
That'd be really cool because I haven't really seen a version of that as of yet. That commune, which has all the latest. One of my good friends from way back, my next door neighbor actually, he kind of gravitated towards that. That's his kind of lifestyle, and he's been living commune-ish type things for a while.
Yeah, yeah.
And there is just like this. Very much the naturalistic thing. You know,
Yep.
we don't want tech, we don't want screens, we don't want that. So
Yeah.
I've yet to really see a version of it with that integrated into it.
Pretty
And
cool.
It would make sense with electric vehicles and even just car sharing. You know,
Yep.
You only use your car 5% of the time. If
Exactly. And energy sharing like between the space, like that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty cool. And I think there's like been like with the blockchain space, like obviously we're like we ran an event yesterday. We had about, I think, 50 students rock up, which is pretty cool. Right from, I think, age 10-ish, right up to 16. So we had them all set up with their own Lightning wallets. We did like a seed phrase hunt. We did for Bitcoin. We did like spatial. And then we did like an ordinals inscription for their mural arts. We got them all to make art together. It's a whole bunch of cool stuff, but it was all Bitcoin based, kind of painting blockchain week orange a little bit, but it's cool. So I think there's a lot to be said. I think we can kind of flip the narrative a little bit as well. So like, you know how Bitcoin was rebranded blockchain by the banks essentially. I think we can hijack that back and just go, yeah, cool, blockchain with the Bitcoin B at the start, right?
Yeah. I was actually reading the Bitcoin Whitepaper recently. That's kind of one of my monthly goals for myself. And it's pretty interesting going back to that because one, it is readable, even just for normies. I don't consider myself that tech literate, but even I can get into it. And one of the things that jumped out at me from this last reading was he actually doesn't mention anything about economics in it. There's almost nothing in it. The number 21 million doesn't appear, but the emphasis is really on the technology and peer-to-peer, and it's not about what is money, what is Austrian economics, how does that differ from Keynesian. There's nothing about inflation, there's nothing about interest rates, there's nothing about that in there, which I think is useful to recognize because it can kind of get distorted as well. A lot of the Bitcoin podcasts I hear that they're financial podcasts. They're not actually that. Bitcoin gets chucked into it, and that's the branding of it. But it's definitely more a financial one. Yeah, and that's when I go, oh, you know what? That's fine and all if you're into finances, but it kind of almost does feel like that's being hijacked by the finance things. Yeah, and this is where I go. People like Andreas Antonopoulos. You mentioned him as well. Yeah. He's great because it only slightly touches upon it, but his focus is really
the tech.
The tech and how can this help people in El Salvador? How can this help people in Argentina? How can this help people in Africa? Yeah. And I really more appreciate that, and I think it's good to just kind of recognize 100% the economic stuff. That's a deep well to go down if you're trying to get down into that.
Yeah, it is. Well, and also with the white paper, it never mentions the word blockchain either. So you go through it, it's like, right. So it's interesting. But yeah, God, I should go back and read over it again, like with fresh eyes, I suppose. It's been
when was the last time you reckon?
Years.
Yeah, I'd definitely give it a reread.
Since like our school, we had it in the shipping container up on the walls. I don't think I've looked at it since. So yeah, I will. I'll go back and have another squiz at it because you always get something new, don't you?
Yeah. And I tried some of the other ones, the Ethereum. I don't know if it's called white paper, yellow paper, maybe. Yeah. And that one went, okay, this is too hard to read. I don't understand a lot of this. Yeah. Vitalik's a smart guy, but yeah, that was too hard.
Doesn't the white paper change every week as well?
Yeah, that's that as well. It's trying to trying to find exactly what, because they've always they like names around there as well. Sort of.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, I've been going to meetups for a fair while now. I started going to them, I think, it would have been in 2021. So it's good, like 2 years of relatively consistent. And you just get a feel for the different types of people. There is, it's kind of hard to pick, to be honest. You know, there's the real freedom lovers.
Yep.
There's the real privacy people, but then it's a thing which is an open ledger, you know.
Yeah.
Why is a privacy lover really into this sort of deal?
Yeah.
And there's some genuine crazy people that I've met in Bitcoin meetups, and then also ones where I'm like, wow, these are super, super smart as well. And it's hard to get a feel for it, to be honest. It kind of does feel like it's for everyone, because it's
diverse.
Yeah. Everyone kind of finds their own little niche for what they want from it.
For sure. And that's the sign of good technology. But I suppose we were talking about it last night actually. Anyone who's suited up is usually a scammer, so you can pick them out. They're trying to sell you something that you probably don't want. So, but for the rest of it, I think there's really nice people, I think, that I've met like at a lot of meetups. Yeah, you will get some, weirdos or whatever, but like we spun one up at the Mornington Peninsula now, so we run Peninsula Bitcoin. PeninsulaBitcoin.com? Yeah. And that has taken off really quickly. So we've got a lot of people involved, which is weird because I tried spinning something up like on my own, like pandemic times. Such a blur, like that time.
Yeah, that is a blur.
Whatever time it was, like when we first sort of moved into the house, I was like, oh cool, there's a learning space like around the corner that's open. I'm like, maybe I'll like spin this up, like ask the people there if we could use it. They're like, yeah. And then it kind of fizzled out. I'm like, all right, well, whatever. And now we're like using that same space, and we've got like a bunch of people in there. We've got like businesses onboarding, and it's really taken off, and really nice community as well. Diverse, but I will say probably more left wing, like left leaning people in the group, because like you were saying before, you get a lot of sort of right wingers or
just very conservative. I think
libertarians and that sort of thing.
Yes, correct.
But the Peninsula group's kind of more focused on the energy aspect and clean energy and using BTC. Cool. It's really cool. So yeah, it's exciting. So I think it's like between that and then the Melbourne Bitcoin only group, it's that's really exploded as well. There's a lot of cool people there. So it's all happening, and we've onboarded. So it's really funny actually. I had so I was doing my teaching cert at Chisholm TAFE in Rosebud, and so happened like everyone in the group got COVID except for me, including the teacher, me and like one other student. And so we rock up like, oh, what are we doing today? Let's just hang out. The culinary arts people came in and said, like, we're doing our assessment. Do you guys want to do fine dining for the day? Like, all right. So we rocked into the next room. We're sitting there, and just through chatting, I was like, oh, so you own like this Fox Hotel? You're the owner? And she's like, yeah. I'm doing this so I can like, teach bartending and stuff. I was like, can we run Bitcoin meetups at your space? And she's like, yeah, like what is that? Can you explain it to me? So I did like a full Bitcoin lesson over breakfast. And then, now we've got a awesome space, like this massive bar that we're doing events in now. So just from everyone getting COVID, it was like a big positive sort of came out of that. So it's pretty cool. So yeah, like 2 massive meetups that we got. And then there's the Oshi Gallery as well. So that's, we did that last week, and that's really cutting edge space that they've built with that. I was like blown away how cool it is. And that's more sort of art driven, but it's named after Satoshi, which I didn't click with until after. Oh yeah, Oshi Gallery, Satoshi,
yes,
right?
Of course, yeah.
So yeah, pretty cool. So a lot of cool meetup stuff happening.
Yeah, building community is really hard. One of my goals for this last year was to try and integrate more into communities, because I've always kind of been a bit of a loner, to be honest. A lurker probably is the best way to put it. On forums, I would always lurk. I would just I didn't want to speak with people. Mm-hmm. I remember I actually had it was a legit goal. I wrote it down and I was nervous about it, which was to write a post on a forum sometime because I was just so uncomfortable.
That's so funny.
Putting stuff out there.
Yeah.
And I've kind of been trying to do it a bit recently, and it is hard, man, especially with the tech stuff. I don't like spending time online.
Yeah.
And that seems to be a big portion of
That's
it.
ironic.
Yeah, I know. It's my life is just full of contradictions. And it's the aspect of kind of being in a Discord or writing on Twitter or posting on Instagram or things like that. I just try and get that out of the way. I don't want to actually be on those platforms. I don't get fun from that unless it's sending memes to a friend. So hearing more about this sort of stuff, doing it in real life, I think is really cool. It's I kind of how would you say you went about it? You're just chatting with random people. I guess that's your kind of style, right? You're just happy, friendly.
Pretty much.
Ask for a random thing, see if someone says yes.
Yeah, like not really planned at all. Just like all kind of happened, and it's all kind of happened at once, which is pretty awesome. So it's like like you were saying, the online stuff versus like in person. Like I much prefer in person events, like going to places and everything. But online has its place as well, and I think the cool thing now is that we can do like this sort of stuff online, and it's not as good, but it's like if you're on the other side of the world, you can communicate with people, and it's awesome, right? So we can create learning communities, especially online now, that don't have to be in one building. And I think that was one of the other cool things that came out of COVID, like a lot of people realizing that. So there's a lot of work from home, a lot of schools migrated like online, and a lot of the kids don't want to go back to like the old style of learning.
I get it. Yeah.
I think that's a positive, right? So we're all sort of moving in a direction where it's not that 9 to 5 going to the city or going to this building to do something. We can do it online. So yeah, I think I like the hybrid models as well, so like sort of having stuff online and in person. But yeah, I think it's all positive. But like the in-person stuff that we've been doing recently, because we were locked up for so long in Melbourne, it's just like so refreshing. So this is amazing. We can like speak to each other in person. So yeah, it's cool.
I never got to experience either of those, I suppose, because when I worked in the mining industry, coal mining, it was you go out to the mine every single week. And I didn't do a day of work from either at home or even in the office in Mackay. So I never got to experience it. For me, work was always associated with going out and staying in a completely different space. And that space wasn't particularly fun. I always say, I don't think anyone really wanted to be out there. Maybe 5% of people really enjoy driving big trucks or digging in excavators and that lifestyle, or particularly the lifestyle. It's hard, man. It's really, really hard. So I never got to experience either the hybrid model or stay at home, because I've already kind of been doing this stuff since then.
It's a really interesting thing. I was talking to my partner this morning, and we were talking about job satisfaction. Do you think that's a thing? Like, should people have job satisfaction now, or should they be chasing like money and, I suppose comfort level within their job? Because to me, it's the most important thing. But we were kind of going back and forth on that. Like, what's your opinion?
It's a tough one, because for me, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was young. So from 16 through to mid-20s, I had no idea. And so the best thing for me was actually earning money and earning a fair bit in the mining industry.
Right.
In something I was relatively good at. It didn't cost me too much mental strain. I was always good at maths and science. So going to uni, I still worked hard, but I kind of breezed through. If I'd just not worked as hard, I would have got probably 5s without trying too hard. So even though I didn't enjoy the mining industry or even engineering, I'm like the most useless engineer ever, because I actually don't like problem solving. It's not that intriguing to me. I don't go seeking out problems and be like, oh, this is fun. When I have a software problem, it's just like, oh no, no, this is not what I want. I'd rather things stay the same. So for me, it was really good to earn a whole bunch of money, because it gave me the options to explore to travel, to try out podcasting, realize I really enjoy it, and this is the thing I want to do. This is kind of the path I'd rather go down.
Yeah.
But I don't know, everyone's so individual, man. I was just thinking recently about giving broad advice. I once was online, was interacting with another podcaster in a kind of Facebook group, so I kind of overcame my fear of posting and things like that.
Yeah.
And I put this generalization out about the mining industry because she had a topic related to it. And another person in the group was a miner that worked in the mines for 30 years. I'd only been there for 3 years. So I was kind of just saying some shit out of my ass, to be honest, a real broad generalization from only a couple of years experience. And he goes, yeah, I've been in it for 30 years. And I would say that this is so completely contradicting what I was saying. I can't even remember what it was.
Right.
And I went, you know what? That is probably a good learning point. Don't do generalizations if you don't know about the topic. Yeah. This is a topic I have no idea about. Yeah. My work experience is limited to the 3 years that I had in the mines. So I can't, but I can say this doesn't feel like a job.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing I think for me.
Absolutely.
I really enjoy, all the days kind of blend together. Saturdays are the same as Thursdays.
Right.
Because I just do stuff for the podcast on it, and I can kind of do it at my own schedule. Leave the afternoons off for workouts, do stuff in the morning with Kieran, recording and editing in the evening when my brain's fried. That's the kind of perfect
awesome
schedule for me. So satisfaction, I guess, is high up for the roof.
Yeah.
But it's not particularly a job. It's now just a lifestyle.
Just a
But I don't know.
Thing that you do.
What do you reckon? Do you think most people can find that? Because I mean, look, there's just some jobs that need doing, and I don't know if anyone's going to love it. There's always going to be a need for janitors. There's always going to be a need for people to go down into the sewers. There's always going to be a need for people to, check meter boxes. A lot of it can, I guess, be automated.
Robotics,
but especially the physical jobs, that the physical, highly detailed ones, they're not going to go away for a fair while.
No. Yeah.
And I don't know if you can get job satisfaction from some of them. I just don't think some of them are that intriguing.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I suppose you go after the money there. But I only asked just because I've obviously started 2 new jobs fairly close to each other, one being the primary school and then one higher ed. And there's no day that I wake up oh shit, I gotta go to work. It's always fun, exciting, doing stuff with the students. We're doing some really cool projects, building their own games, doing stuff with Lightning. We've got so much cool stuff we're building in the classroom, turning it into a smart classroom. So IoT stuff that we're building out, building their own computers. Every day is fun. It's exhausting because we've got a lot of kids in that space and they're all excited, but there's never any day I wake up oh no, I got to go to work again. It's always cool. And the same thing for Blockchain Academy. So we're building out this new curriculum essentially, and working with cool people pretty much every day. So I'm just this is awesome.
Yeah, I think that's part of it as well. I didn't hate the people I worked with, but I didn't form really great friendships with them outside of work.
Right.
And I was with them a lot. We were doing 12-hour days in the office, and it was open plan.
Right.
There's a guy sitting right next to me, and one on the other side, and one around the corner.
Right.
And one behind me. And I would just say it was, I kind of get to choose who I work with now, I suppose.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, makes a pretty big difference.
Big difference for sure. Yeah, it's cool. Really interesting.
It's a tough one. It's going to be real interesting seeing how the world changes with hope. Yeah. I think for the better, with a lot of just technology eating up jobs and new ones getting formed, which hopefully people enjoy more.
Yeah.
You were talking about energy just before, and this is one of the ones where I've said some stuff and I go, I actually don't know that much about energy. So I've got this book at the moment that I'm reading through, and it was talking about the old coal mines in England, and this was 1600s, 1700s, and one of the big breakthroughs in energy was the steam engine. But before that was actually how to use one of the first engines, and they used it for basically pumping water out of the mines.
Right.
And so it was called the Newcomen steam engine. And it was basically super inefficient. I think 1% efficiency of converting the coal energy into actual mechanical energy for pumping this stuff up. But it was just crazy, man. Those jobs were awful. You know, kids were going down in there. You've seen probably some photos on the internet of Belgian coal miners in a mine shaft in one of the cages, elevators going down.
Horrendous, yeah.
Just awful conditions. And I wonder if in 100 years' time they look back at us and they're like, look at these people nailed to their desks, didn't have sunlight. Would they consider our things, rats in a cage? You have to wear this particular suit, or the chains of slavery and things like that. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they look at that like we look at maybe a farmer who was having to plow the fields by hand or with a horse and individually like bend down to put in plants and things like that.
Yeah. Well, it's my favorite Antonopoulos quote, which I'm going to butcher. Yeah.
Go for it, man.
We played it yesterday. So it was like when we interviewed him. So the kids like did the Bitcoin interview with him. And
just yesterday?
No. This is like from years ago.
Okay,
so
I remember that one.
Yeah, and they asked about the like the YouTube videos getting deleted. So like YouTube deleting them for, I think there was like two big ones. There was one for something to do, like one of the kids was doing the Enigma mission on like GMO foods, and whatever she put in there, like YouTube didn't like it and deleted. And then a bunch of them around like gaming and like using game footage that belongs to somebody else, and it's like deleted. And it's like they work really hard to like edit this thing, put it up, and then YouTube says no. So we're kind of asking him about that, and he was like, well, my answer is like to not use YouTube, right? He's like, but all my videos are on YouTube. And he's like, it's kind of like going to work on a horse to go and build a car, essentially. I'm like, yeah, that's 100% right. That's exactly what it is. It's using these like Web 2 tools to get out the information out to people to build the new internet sort of thing.
Yeah, there's this really cool stuff happening within podcasting 2.0, and that it's kind of the breaches. It's expanding beyond podcasting at the moment. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on with music, and it's all related to value for value, which we'll kind of get to, but
like what Wavlake and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, a little bit of what Wavlake's doing, and PeerTube, if you've heard of that.
No,
it's basically I think they use ActivityPub as the kind of underlying protocol, and it's basically for hosting videos. So it's
cool.
I don't think they'd consider themselves YouTube competitors, but it's a place where you can upload your video.
Right.
I've used a couple of them before. No Agenda Tube is a kind of big one related to Adam Curry.
Yeah.
And one of the big things that's kind of I'm starting to see coming from this is, now the problem with video is just hosting it. Hosting it is just
huge,
ridiculous.
Yeah.
And would still probably need decades of just bandwidth and and lowering costs and having bigger and bigger hard drives and storages and capabilities like that.
Or compression. It's probably the
or compression. Yeah. Better ways of delivering it.
Yep.
But there's some really cool stuff with live. YouTube does it reasonably well.
Yeah.
But you can get better experiences on some of these ones, I think, with the integration of value for value, of really being able to, it's kind of like the super chats, the ability to have multiple different kind of chat comments and get your favorite creators' attention whilst they're live, but without having to do any of the payment systems that YouTube uses, without any of the risk of deplatforming, because you're able to decentralize it on ActivityPub or something like that.
Yeah.
So there's some really cool stuff coming out of that, which I think I don't think YouTube's going away anytime soon. That thing is going to be existing for a long time.
Yeah.
But I think alternatives, like portions of what makes YouTube really great, will go to other places. The commenting system, hopefully that'll come into podcasting. The live experience, I think that could go elsewhere, and then YouTube is just good for the like long form videos or even short form, I guess, as well.
Yeah, and I think there's obviously a lot of tech out there. So like LBRY.
I've tried that a little bit as well.
BitChutes. Like LBRY is cool because it just like syncs your YouTube channel in the background.
Yeah, so I think it's still doing it for hours. I don't know. It's been a while since I've checked.
Yeah, it's cool. Like, I mean, it's a great way to do it. And I think like like the way they built it out was pretty cool. I kind of wish they didn't do their own token. Like, it would be awesome if it was just.
It's always got to be a token.
Yeah, but it'd be cool if it was just Lightning, right? Like, it's for interaction with the people on there, because they've got like the LBOI token and Odyssey is the front end, so it's kind of like obfuscated like I think the original mission for that. But like things like BitChute and using like the BitTorrent like protocol for that, or WebTorrent is that what it's called? So basically, like, you know, distributed hosting. I think and IPFS obviously is like another one that it's all kind of there. It's just getting enough people onto it to make it like work sort of seamlessly, because they all scale in the opposite direction, right? So it's like the more people on there, the more people using it. It's like a fraction of your hard drive shared out to the rest of the network.
Yes.
The faster it gets, and the faster and faster it gets. But it's just hitting that precipice of people.
For sure. I'm kind of the same with Nostr. I've tried using it multiple times, multiple clients, multiple having desktop on my phone. It's still just every time it's just I've used it and I've gone, it's not ready yet. I can't use this thing. So
with that, shout out to Tiggs. He is an expert, so I'll put you in contact with him. He'll run you through everything. He set me up with my phone because I was like, this sucks. Like, it's like slow, clunky, and he just like took the time. Basically, you have to have like X amount of relays.
It's just your relay choice. Is that
relay choices, and there's a whole suite of other cool things you can do with it. Like, the development's just like out of control. So definitely worth pursuing. It's just there's so much info out there. It's like info overload, and you kind of just like.
My approach has been every couple of months I'll have another retry.
Yeah.
And just see, okay, is this working now? Is this working now?
I'll put you in contact with Tiggs.
Yeah, cool.
He'll do a V4V lesson with you.
Brilliant. Yeah, that'd be good. We talked about Andreas a couple of times, and he's probably been the most influential for me in just learning about Bitcoin. And I joined his Patreon for a while, not too long ago. I had to stop just because I hate Patreon. It's just, you know, he talks about putting his videos on YouTube and putting them on Patreon
is worse.
And whatever they use. I don't know if they have their own video service in the back end or if they use Vimeo or whatever it is, but it is. I hate that platform. It's so hard to use. So it's like paying for a degraded experience, you know? And it's just like, God damn, I love you, Andreas, but I can't do this to myself.
Yeah.
But I got to ask him this question. I asked him, the best technology doesn't always win. So how much value do you place on the actual technology of Bitcoin, which he knows a lot about, and versus going to meetups? And he didn't give a ratio, but I would have said it from his answer, it was probably 80-20 in the favor of the meetups. How are people actually reacting to this? What are they doing differently? Are they motivated by it? Are they excited by it? Are they frustrated by it? And I thought that was pretty crazy answer, considering he's the one I've learned the most technical stuff about.
Yeah, technologist.
Yeah. And what is there anything that you've learned from recent ones, for example?
Meetups?
Trend? Yeah.
Trends,
or even just trends over the years, because you've been going to meetups. You went to some Japan ones back in the day, didn't you?
Yeah. We were talking about it this morning, actually, with I was literally met Roger Ver over there in Japan.
Yeah.
It's funny because we got off the...
So that was like 2013?
2016.
2016.
I think.
Okay.
And we got off the... got off the plane and I was like looking up meetups like immediately. I was like, I'm pretty sure, because it was like they announced that you could use BTC over there, like for payments for stuff.
Yeah.
So it was like certain places you go. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Oh my god, there's a meetup. We have to go. So I like dragged my partner. She was like, really? We got on a Bitcoin meetup. Yeah. So I went there and it was like Roger. He was like rocking basically it was a pretty big meetup for like the space they had. I was like, oh, this is cool. So he was telling me and like a group of people about like the block size, and I had no clue. I didn't really have much context for
So this was right during the block size
before
wars?
Like sort of before.
Oh,
it was probably a month before like the fork, right?
Okay.
So he was explaining to me, didn't mention Bcash at all. Like didn't mention the word. He was just saying Bitcoin because he owns Bitcoin.com, right?
Yeah. Well, it probably wasn't even labeled back then.
I think it was.
It was?
It was,
okay.
yeah. But he was just saying Bitcoin, and I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Makes a lot of sense. sense. And like came back to Australia and then kaboom. I'm like, hey, that guy was like explaining this to me like firsthand. So, and like he was, because he's such I think a sort of charismatic dude, was really nice and friendly as well. I was just like, oh, this is cool. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense what you're saying. Yeah, rah, rah. It was interesting because you're sort of equating the block size to like how much a floppy disk versus like a CD or a DVD sort of thing. I was like, okay, I guess that's a good analogy. Like, why do we want more stuff in there? And obviously it was wrong. Like, history sort of is like you could actually have a look at it's like a blockchain or mempool explorer that uses like South Park characters, and you can look at like Bitcoin versus BSV versus like Bcash, and there's like a bus of just all these South Park characters like on the mempool for BTC, and the other ones have no people, like maybe one person, and it's like real time. So it was very funny, but so I learned a lot from that, and then over the years, like I said, like with the lockdowns and stuff, we didn't really have many places to go and stuff, so kind of like faded away a little bit, and then it's just come back heaps. So yes, I've learned like so much in the last like year or so, going to meetups, meeting people, like all the cool tech that's coming out, like people working on stuff, particularly like the mining stuff. I reckon that's really exciting. In a green way as well, which is like amazing. And then a lot of stuff with Nostr, a lot of stuff with like layer 2 solutions, and even ordinals. Like I was kind of like looking at ordinals initially as like negatively, and it's NFT scam, until it was sort of explained to me that they're like inscriptions on like essentially a Satoshi, and like what that sort of means, and rah rah rah. So I'm not totally negative with that. I think there's like has its place. We can do some interesting things with that, particularly art. I think art's important.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you have like longevity for that, then if we can use the BTC blockchain for that, kind of why not, I suppose. I think like the ridiculous prices and stuff, like that's stupid. But so I've learned heaps, like absolutely heaps. And it seems to be more and more every week. That and the School of Bitcoin. So the School of Bitcoin, we're doing like a value for value model for, so essentially like podcasting, but specifically for lessons. So it's like open to anybody. So if you wanted to come and do a lesson on how to do a podcast, more than welcome. And basically we put your lightning address. It goes like on the open source Bitcoin channel. So it goes up on that. And it's like all goes to you. So it's just like a peer-to-peer network of educators and learners.
And so how does that work? It's people, is it kind of people who are watching have a mechanism that is it more they
literally just the payment? So so
they'll just choose to send you stuff if they got value from it?
Exactly right.
Interesting.
And I think if we could do that more in education, it's kind of the model for it, because like with the School of Bitcoin, it's kind of split into three main pieces. So the way it was born, it was sort of out of my school, like all the learning that sort of happened with that.
Warana?
With Rana, yeah. So like it was a bit of a sad ending to that school. So we had a break in at the school, and these crooks like stole all the stuff that like out of this learning space that the kids broke. So it was really built, but it was really sort of heartbreaking. But out of that, I was kind of like sitting angry and upset by like what these criminals had done, what the Department of Ed had, like their solution was like, we'll write a policies that no Victorian school can use like shipping containers for classrooms.
It's kind of like how do we stop criminals stealing expensive things? Don't have expensive things.
Pretty much. So it was really sad, and I was just like, oh well, I can either sit and be angry with that or channel it into something positive. So I like wrote a white paper for the School of Bitcoin. So basically, how do we take all the learning that happened there and make that available for everybody, sort of thing? And so I put that out to a community, and got some really nice guy from America, actually, one of the main devs initially. Shout out to Jacques. He was like, I was like, is this the rantings of a madman, or is it like, does it make any sense? He's like, yes.
Good question to ask.
And so, that's where the decentralized autonomous education system was sort of born out of that. So that's like the middle piece. And it's essentially like we've got a learner fund attached to that. So basically like a BTC learner fund, and that's to fund learner projects. So it's like, all right, from the V4V lesson, so that's like another piece. So it's like anyone can be involved to your value for value lesson. Hopefully out of those lesson plans, you get financial literacy. All right, you're financially literate to some degree. Like, what project do you want to build? And we've got a fund where we can actually sort of fund that stuff. And then the third piece is like open, transparent faculty meetings. So like hours of me and the group sort of talking on over Zoom and all sort of transparent on YouTube. But I think that's really important because like, even talking to the kids yesterday, I was just like explaining that, and in their mind, like the faculty's like separate, right? So it's this thing that's in the staff room and you're not part of it. I want to break that down. So it's just like, no, anyone can be sort of part of this. What's your ideas? We can integrate that into it, sort of thing. So yeah, it's been cool. So it's been a cool journey with that. And I've learned a lot from the value for value stuff, particularly Nosta actually recently. So like that's really blown my mind, like what the possibilities are with that. And not just integration with BTC, but like, and the Zaps and all that sort of stuff, but the like future orientation for that. So like what it means for ID, what it means for these Web 2 services are going to be like essentially forced to use it in the future. It's pretty cool. So it's akin to like what BTC is for the banks. Like this is sort of happening for the oligarchs of like the old Web 2 world. So it's cool.
Yeah, the social world. How do people access School of Bitcoin? What's their normal avenue? Is it via the YouTube videos? Is it via
a bit of everything? So we've got a GitHub repo. Actually, this is a few things. So we've got a GitHub repo and a Git book that has all the School of Bitcoin V4V lessons there. On the YouTube channel, on the two YouTube channels that sort of mirror each other, actually on Odyssey as well. So it just gets pushed out to there. Mm-hmm. And then direct communication as well. So with the DAES, that's like applications for whatever your project is that you want to build. And then for the open faculty meetings, that's like anyone who wants to be involved, has an idea, can integrate that as well. So for example, we've got Cameron, who I haven't seen him in a while actually. Cameron, you got to jump back in. But he had a really cool idea for like a front end piece for like AI. So like using AI, training that up for Bitcoin specifically. I'm like, oh my God, that's awesome. Because I keep going back and forth. So that was one aspect. And one was like an accredited Bitcoin course. So Blockchain Academy. We've kind of been talking about that this morning actually. Like how would that sort of look? How do we sort of build it out? But because the tech's moving so fast, it's like, well, all right, so you get this accredited course. It could be obsolete by the time you get it like accredited sort of thing. So I'm of two minds about like sort of how we do that. But I think the AI could be like the sort of next level of that, right? So it's like this front interface where it's constantly upgrading and you can ask it like what questions you want. Because there's so many avenues into BTC. So like for yourself, it was like through podcasting, you sort of found out about it. Everyone's different. So like, where do you start? It's not like concrete sequential like other things are, you know what I mean? So yeah, so a lot of cool stuff happening.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I suppose that was my introduction, really, the podcasting 2.0. And I actually did this one recently, which I labeled, what was it? Podcasting 2.0 and value for value, delivering on the promise of Bitcoin. So it's actually being able to use it. And that kind of condensed like the last 3 years of my life, to be honest, in one thing. I'll send you it because I think you'll find it interesting.
Yeah.
And it was, I think the value for value, this is one of the ones where I'm kind of asking myself, like, am I crazy? Is this because when I first heard about all of this stuff, I thought it was the podcasting innovation. I thought it was, wow, you can get new chapters, you can have links, you can put transcripts in, you can maybe have cross-app comments. I thought that was the stuff that really was exciting to me. And looking back now, I go, no, it was the value for value. It was just this concept. It's such a simple idea. It's the simplest thing ever.
Yeah.
You know, I provide some value. I just ask for it in return. Yeah. And it's, that's basically as fundamental as you can get.
Yeah.
I was trying to explain inflation rates and inflation and what interest rates were to my housemate last night, And I couldn't do it, man. I even though I've read a lot, I've listened to a lot, I feel like I know a lot. It is so confusing to try and explain that stuff. And
purposely so, I reckon.
And then yet you hear about something like value for value, which is just the most simplest concept. When applied, I don't think you can really apply it in the physical world. Doing it in a, creating a computer, for example, I'm not sure value for value will work for Apple. Yeah. I don't see how it can scale to that level.
Yeah.
Considering it's only 4% of people who roughly do it. So I'm not sure it works that well for physical products. There's actually a guy at the meetup that I go to who does it for soap and for cooking. So he'll bring steaks or skewers. Yeah. And he cooks it for all of us. Eat as much as you want or as little as you want. And he has a Lightning address and you pay as much or pay as little. I actually do need to ask him, like, are you actually coming out level with this? Because I participate as well. I send him an amount. I don't know if it's if everyone was sending as much as I do. I think he'd probably be okay, but I don't know if everyone is. So
yeah.
The physical world, leave that for the side. But everything's going digital anyway, so that I think it just makes so much sense. And it's one of those ones where I'm like, how can YouTube not get consumed by this? How can all of the other platforms which make money from advertising? I just don't see how value for value just doesn't eat all of them in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this is one where I'm like, I might be crazy. I don't know.
No, I think you're right. I think between that and Nostr, like, and what's happening with that, like, so the basically, like, what's gonna happen is these big platforms are going to be forced to use that as like the ID piece, and they're going to become interoperable with everything else like immediately, or they're going to fail. And I think the same thing with Lightning integration. So if you're not doing it, so I know like Elon Musk is like talking about making Twitter like this, like WeChat.
Yeah,
you see that's like what?
That's his. I've heard that's kind of, he's been talking about this since the PayPal days, I believe. A one app to rule them all type deal. Yeah. You can pay for things in it. You can do your shopping. You can talk with your friends. You can, order flights. It'll just do every, electricity, banking, everything sort of thing in it. Yeah. I think that's, once again, generalization. I have no idea. I don't know what he thinks, but
well, I mean, the fact that he's using WeChat, it's like he literally said, "I'll just copy WeChat."
True.
It's like, what? So it's like centralized platform run by the CCP. Probably not the best model to emulate. So I mean, like with something like that, like I think he's going to be forced to integrate things like Nostr and things like Lightning, whether he likes it or not, which I don't think he does, right? He wants to basically control it. Yeah, he wants to. I'm of two minds of that because I find Doge like funny. Like we had it yesterday. I had like one of my slides. I'm like, oh, we do Doge chain at school and it's fun. And like all the kids are instantly, it's hilarious because it's like, the meme character. So I love that. And I love, like, I've used it a lot. I've lost a lot of Bitcoin given to kids as well, but I dread to think what the numbers are. I don't want to do it. So like I started using Doge for a long time. I'm like, because it's worthless. It doesn't matter if it disappears.
And then it goes.
And then he like pumped it. I'm like, man, come on, Elon. It's so annoying.
Oh jeez, yeah. You just can't find the shit, the shittest of the shit.
And it's like. It was perfect because it's like, I think it was an Aussie developed it like as a joke initially, and it's like just a meme coin. It's meant to be fun and silly and weird, not an investment.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Aussies develop everything apparently. Craig Wright invented Bitcoin. Yeah. No, there actually is quite a lot going on here. Even in the Ethereum world, even just here in Brisbane, one of the biggest. It's called Rocket Pool. If you've heard of that.
No.
It's kind of like Lido, I guess, a version of Lido.
What's Lido?
Lido was the one where you could stake your Ethereum before you could it was when the staking was one way. It still might be. I don't know if you can.
I haven't kept up with any of this stuff. No.
A couple of years ago, you could basically, when you could only stake it and you couldn't withdraw it out, you'd stake it with them and then they would give you this artificial token back stake deed.
An IOU.
Yes, pretty much. But there was a market for it,
Right.
and it would trade at almost equivalent to the real Ethereum. So
Okay. Right.
it's kind of like, gold being backed by, gold is backing paper money.
Right.
So this paper money, it still kind of has value, but then over time that,
Yep.
it kind of dissociates. A lot of weird things go on with incentives when you have derivative products and futures and all that sort of stuff.
It's nonsense.
Once again, complexity is, I appreciate complexity for some things, laptops, Wi-Fi. I don't know how any of that works. It just magically does.
Yep.
But when it comes to other things, I want it to be simple, and I feel it needs to be simple.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's actually quite a few cute things going on in Australia, which is really cool. I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah, man. No, it's cool. Well, I mean, like Wallet of Satoshi, like that was developed here. It's used exactly, all over the place, right? Like third world countries are embracing that, and it's a great service. Like we used it yesterday with the kids, and like that, and LM Bits. So LM Bits is great. They're doing some cool stuff. So there's like legend.lmbits. You can spin up an address. Don't need like a phone or anything. It's all browser based. The detractor is though, like there's no support obviously that you can get like with the custodial, like with Wallet of Satoshi, and I dare say most of them will lose that address and like lose the BTC. So there's a lot to be said for Wallet of Satoshi, and I think I'm usually like anti-custodial, but they're pretty damn good.
Man, so for this episode, I'll get a Lightning wallet for you, and I put Guess in as a 30% split. So
cool.
Whatever's
Awesome.
come in, you get 30%.
Sweet.
And I don't have a single one, I think that is non-custodial. I think all the ones that I have linked up, and I kind of decentralize myself by using a bunch of different custodial ones.
Okay.
So I've got
cool.
Satoshi Stream for portions of it. I've got a lot of it going to Fountain. I have a bunch of it going to Albi wallets. I'm not actually sure if Albi is custodial or non-custodial.
I think it's both. You
Yeah,
can do both with it.
yeah. I need to do some research on that. But it's one of those ones where it's like, like I said, I'm kind of tech illiterate. I don't enjoy getting into the weeds.
Fair enough.
And, but I think there is still enough there for me to go, yeah, okay, this is really cool. This is still usable. The Albi address is I've got 3 of them at the moment, and I kind of use them in different ways, and it is related to the identity piece.
Yep.
One of them, which is, it's got the equivalent of a couple $100 in there. I'm much more careful with that one. That one's kind of the professional. Don't touch it. Don't attach this to weird places.
Yeah, okay.
Be careful with this one.
Yeah.
Other ones, I've got 20,000 sats in it.
Yeah.
And I'll use that for experimentation. I'll put that to different places. And I am kind of starting to see, I can use this over here, and this will link with this thing. And it's kind of attaching my name and face to this digital address, or at least a portion of my name and face.
Yep.
So it's kind of like, okay, I can start to see how this is.
That's cool. Yeah.
This is actually having an impact.
What's it? Wallet hygiene. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah. I've become a lot more cleanly over the last couple of years. Thankfully, I didn't have to learn through experience. I haven't made any massive errors.
That's good.
Fingers crossed. But I've heard enough other people just silly things.
I had a bad one with it was so stupid. Like years ago, I don't know if you remember Steam, like the Steam platform.
Steam It,
yeah, Steam It. I don't know if it's still a thing.
Yeah, it's called Hive now. It actually is part of the back end of podcasting with Podping.
Oh, right. Okay, cool.
I'll tell you about that later.
Yeah, so Steam It, like years ago, I was like super excited about it. I'm like, oh, this is cool as like, getting paid for writing articles and whatever. So it was like trying to get everyone onto it, spinning up stuff, writing stuff. So I got paid like equivalent of about, I think, $4,000 or $6,000 like on it. I just had on it. I'm like, oh my God, this is nuts.
Yeah, there's people who earn a living on it still.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. It was that because I think it spiked in price. I was
That
just
helps.
like, what? This is insane. So stupidly, I was like super excited. I installed like an APK like app on my phone that was like a chat application for Steam It, and I was just like, not even thinking, just put in my bloody private key into that, gone like immediately. And I didn't click until like a couple of weeks later where I went to go post something. It's like, I think from memory, you had to have like X amount to be allowed to post.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's like, what's going on here? posted it like to a channel, and someone was just like, "Dude, you've been hacked. Did you install this?" And I'm like, "Yep."
Yeah.
Idiot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a hard one.
It's a harsh one, yeah. But I mean, yeah, you live and learn, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. You're in the right area where as long as you're interested in these things and don't do it again and again,
Yeah.
like you'll be able to recoup it back at some point.
Exactly. Well, I mean, and it's like very experimental, like with altcoins as well, like back then as well. So yeah, I think that's the big thing as well. Like we were trying to instill that yesterday with the students. Like, yes, there's all these other things that are out there, like including stocks. So there's a few questions around that, like, you know, should we be looking at stocks or shares? And my answer to them for that, because they were kind of comparing it to Bitcoin, I said, well, three things really. So there's the technology piece. So it's like you're like with your shares or stocks or even a lot of altcoins, like trading on a exchange, you don't really own them. You have like an IOU. And then, you know, if you're a lucky devil, maybe you'll be allowed to have your money for that at the end of the day if you trade it in. So it's like the ownership, you don't have that. And then the piece around like what sort of money is and like this technology being empowering people who aren't allowed to have bank accounts. So like obviously people in third world countries, students don't necessarily have a bank account either, right? So it's like it's empowering. It's not a get rich quick scheme. It's just this tech is allowing or enabling you to interact in an economy that has been pretty harsh on people, like historically. So like the legacy system. So it's like this new cool thing you can sort of build with. So it's more about the tech and empowerment of people who've been disenfranchised before. And then finally, what was the other point I had? Something interesting, but it's gone out.
I was doing that just last night. Had one great thing in my mind, forgot it twice. I think the carryover could be the, you know, what is a portion of a company, a stock. Yeah,
dawned on me. Yeah, the most important piece, and it took me a while to get. So whether you're trading stocks, trading shares, or trading shitcoins, you could do really well, right? So it's like, oh, cool. Like my token has gone up like a bunch and I'm going to cash that out, whatever. I've done a trade. That's great. There's somebody else on the other side of that trade that's done really badly, right? So it's bad karma, right? So it's like this whole network of like, yeah, I've done great, but you're hurting somebody else. And I think that resonated with the students the most because like most people don't think about that. They just think, oh, I'm getting rich. Somebody's getting poor on the other side of that. That's where BTC doesn't have that. It's like because everything's priced in sats. It's just accumulation of that to help other people sort of thing. So
yeah, it depends. I'm mostly a free market kind of fundamentalist. I'm so close to it. It's like just this tiny little bit off from going all in, kind of like a Eric Voorhees libertarian sort of deal. And in those cases, it's like, you know, I've met people with a lot of money who they're going to lose that money. There's just the way they think, their decision making. If they don't lose it in this scam, they're going to lose it in this scam or this other one.
Yeah.
And you can't protect everyone. You can't protect them from themselves. So in this case, I'm kind of like, yeah, you know, if you want to buy a share, all the things, do all the things. If that's what you want to do, like go ahead, go nuts.
For sure.
But when I do look at things like stocks, you know, that's one where I can see like why can't it be digital and be a bit more transparent? I own shares in like Woolworths, Vanguard, and there's a lot of trust built in that, and a lot of that is genuine good trust because it's like what 100 years, 200 years of just financial systems doing all of these things in place to make sure that that's legit. But then I also have an experience of this rather dodgy gold mine here, gold company called Perth Mint, PM Gold, if you want the actual stock ticker. And I used to own this, and this is one of my classic, I did the right thing, but I still came off financially worse from it. Like it was the right decision to make, but just through circumstances, it didn't work. So I had 200 shares in this company. And whilst I was traveling in Latin America, I looked online one day. I'm like, why does it say I only have 199? And I call up the ASX and I'm like, is something wrong with your platform? And they're like, no, well, this company and this guy looked into it. And even the guy online, he's like, look, they took it away because they claimed it was a share, an accounting tax or something. And they found a gray area way of being able to take one share as even if it was only like $3, they could take a full share, and because you can't divide shares into like 199.5, they took a full one. And he was like, look, this is kind of dodgy. It's kind of like they could do it, but it's not great either.
Yeah.
And I just remember being like, I thought I owned 200 and now it says I have 199, and they didn't give any warning of this from what I could tell. They just did it.
Yeah.
And so I later sold that company. And then, of course, COVID happened. And it's like, what's the one thing you want to own when COVID happens? Shares in a gold company. Do it. But I made the right decision being like, this company is fucking dodgy as shit. And then a couple of years later, they were, some recent news of them was they were diluting the gold they were sending to China or something, and they got bought out for it as well. So it's like, oh man, these guys.
Dodgy.
And I remember they had a something crypto related as well.
Right.
Like, I can't remember what it was, but it was
bit gold or something, some nonsense.
Something ridiculous. But those are the ones where it's like, I think there's still a place for that. Crowdfunding, for example, Kickstarter.
Yeah, for sure.
There's places for all of these things, and Bitcoin's not going to chew the world. And the other tokens, I think there is great use for them. Andreas was talking about ordinals and how Ethereum actually does the art aspect of that, of wanting to own something that you think will be preserved better than Bitcoin. And there's a whole bunch of reasons for it. Most of it was related kind of to the security model. And he was just saying it works better on Ethereum. It kind of makes more sense over there than to do it as a Satoshi on Bitcoin. Describing it.
Yeah, right.
Too technical for me. One of those ones where I go, I'm going to trust you, Andreas. I don't know enough about this.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that. I need to. Yeah, I've kind of
to go to his Patreon.
I know. I really miss like watching his stuff.
He's so good, man.
Yeah, it's kind of just like it's disappeared. You're just like, oh, where's Andreas?
Yeah, it was active choice on his part. He said just the YouTube was too mad. He'd rather just put a paywall up. People who are willing to pay for his stuff will access it, and so just that eliminates 99%, almost all of the negative comments, all of the bullshit.
Fair enough, I suppose.
He's one of the ones who I'm like, man, I'd love if he could kind of get into value for value, because
100%.
You don't get negative comments from people sending you money.
No.
And if they do, it's very constructive.
Yeah.
Your audio sounds crap. Or I would appreciate it if you did this thing.
Yep.
It's so helpful.
Yeah.
And you just don't get low quality.
We should like harass him.
Yeah, I don't want to force this on people.
But that man, he needs to be doing V4V for sure. Like it's too cool not to really. Like,
yeah, I mean, he said he tried it.
What's the payment methods for
Patreon?
Patreon, yeah.
It's just using a debit card.
Oh, that's insane.
He says he tried using Bitcoin as kind of the crowdfunding, getting paid in Bitcoin. He said it was kind of too hard for him. I'm just wondering if he didn't have the full ethos, because value for value, a lot of it is in the ask. You have to be asking for it. People aren't just going to do it if you don't ask. So, if you're listening right now, send in a boost, up your stream amount. 30% is going to Kieran if you like what Kieran's doing. If you're getting value from it, please do that. And it's that continual ask that you have to make sure people know if they don't help contribute, it's going to go away.
Yeah,
you can't do it for free forever. If you add advertising into it or sponsorships, you just got to know that's probably going to have an impact on if I was being sponsored by Ledger. I'm not going to be talking about
like Peter McCormick.
Yeah, like a lot of stuff that was happening with Ledger. There's all sorts of conflicts of interest that occur.
100%. He's had it like a bunch, right? Like all these.
Probably. I don't know. I don't follow him too much.
So he's got like so many like companies. Like,
Gemini, I think
it was up. BlockFi was
BlockFi, yeah. Oof.
Like he's kind of doing down the list of them. Like, dude, and he like, To his credit, I think he's kind of got rid of a lot of them. But like, yeah, like if they're paying the bills, like what do you do?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah. It's and that's. I see it with a lot of them. It's not Bitcoin, just Bitcoin people. It's all across the spectrum.
Yeah. Yeah.
How many people had egg on their face after FTX? And if you're very careful and deliberate with who you get on as a sponsor and you have good relations with them, or particularly if it's a company you own, a product that you're selling, Swan Bitcoin, that makes sense. It's the guy. His name's Guy Swan, I think. He has his own company kind of sponsoring his stuff, so that makes sense.
Yeah, right. Okay,
because it's all tied up together. But when you're outsourcing it, it gets
a lot of factors.
It gets messy.
Yeah, 100%.
I was actually thinking, man, how much experiences have you had in everyday life using Satoshis? Is it getting easier? Because I had this one the other day where I had some on the Lightning Network, and I actually was promoting that episode I was talking about before about podcasting 2.0, value for value in Bitcoin.
Yep.
And I did that on Fountain, and unfortunately with Fountain at the moment, you have to pay in fiat, and Oscar is hopefully changing that. Maybe, we'll see.
Yeah, right.
He's been saying that for a couple of months, and I was like, screw it, pay in fiat. And then I went, maybe it'd be good if I could just transfer some of the sats that I have and get that back into my own, bank account in fiat. And I kind of just went, I don't even know how to do that. Like, this is going to be difficult. I know I know a long, complicated method of getting it back onto on-chain, sending that to an exchange, from the exchange, converting that to fiat, getting that fiat, and then getting it back to my bank account.
Living room Satoshi would be the easiest way to do that.
Some people have recommended Robosats
is
as
cool,
well.
Yeah.
It's the problem with a lot of these is I don't have Tor installed, so I would have to learn Tor just to be able to use that. So I can definitely see, it's still, for me, I consider myself a normie. For us normies, there's still so much complex things to learn, to try out, and it's still kind of scary, Still every time if I can do a test of sending some sat somewhere, or BTC, or even some of the other stuff that I still own, I still like to test it before, just a quick one, even if it's like $5 or $10 as a fee, as a transfer fee. It's like I'll pay it if it's a large enough amount. But you're seeing
big change.
What's happening in like even in Melbourne, for example?
You're
seeing
heaps.
People starting to use it?
Heaps. So I've seen a lot of businesses coming on board, particularly in the peninsula. So for Peninsula Bitcoin, we've got them like coming in to the meetups, and then they've got
what type of businesses?
Like restaurants, mostly restaurants, cafe, two hairdressers,
that's good.
or barbers. Some really cool stuff. But like, I think it's getting to a point where you could technically just live on sats, like on the Lightning Network. So I think it's two things. The aha moment with Wallet of Satoshi is like the best, like for onboarding people, right? And it's got the POS system like inbuilt. In fact, one of the kids yesterday was like, "Oh, there's a POS system in here. This is awesome!" Like, yeah, you could start your own business like now. So there's that aha moment where it's like, oh my God, this is easy as, and settlement immediately. Because everyone, for the most part, knows that when you tap your credit card, it's like a month later it actually settles, and there's all nonsense in the background.
I don't think most people know that. I'd say some financial people.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Well, everyone I've sort of explained that to, like at its settlement,
I think they can maybe understand it.
Yeah.
Because probably everyone's had the experience of going, no, I got charged for something I didn't pay for, or they didn't send me the thing. Can you cancel that?
Reverse it, whatever.
Yeah, and so most people kind of go, oh, okay, I can understand why that is.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a catalyst. Like the aha moment, it's like, oh my God, this is so easy. Like where years ago it wasn't, right? Like on-chain stuff's clunky, like you're saying, like you have to do this and that and whatever. They've made it the user experience like really clean, easy, just works, zero fee, next to zero fee, like using the Lightning Network. And it's just like, why would every business not be doing this? This is like better, more efficient, just works, like, and you get people coming out of the woodwork to come to your business. So that's the other aspect. So I think because of inflation and because of the nonsense going on with legacy finance and everything getting more expensive, less people are spending money. So you have these restaurants and businesses who are just like, well, what's going on? So they're actively going out to look at stuff.
Ways,
and there's, a community that has funds that they want to spend and they're excited to come and spend it. So why would you not? So I think it's like definitely on the uptake. Like we just had this morning, went to the crypto cafe, had paid over Lightning, boom. Like it just works. Like why? Yeah, I've kind of wondered for a while, like why is every business not doing this? But I think it's just one, media, obviously. So it's like, oh, Bitcoin bad somehow. Yeah. Environmental FUD and all the rest of it. But I think that's slowly disappearing where it's just like, no, this is a cool piece of tech that is permissionless. Anyone can use it and people are excited to use it. So why would you not do it? Like it's the penny sort of dropping, I think, collectively.
Yeah. I'm still on the fence about how much I've seen it in my everyday life. I'm planning on traveling next year.
Cool.
And I think this will be one of the big litmus tests because that was the reason I actually bought it first in 2017.
Yeah.
So I wanted to use it whilst traveling.
Yeah.
And because I hate paying exchange fees. I hate exchanging money for, getting Argentinian pesos, Colombian pesos. Because you'd always need to get some cash just because you never knew when you would need it.
And you have like a sack full of coins that you can't use when you come home. It's just
I've got my little box. I've got my box. And the one of the disappointing things was back in 2018, I just didn't see how I could use it.
Right.
Maybe if I'd researched more, maybe if I'd known about it earlier, I could have got into communities and known more about, you could go to local meetups and exchange it there. You could, really find out, there's these Bitcoin ATMs in these places, that sort of thing. But it was still hard. Lightning was non-existent basically. Yeah. And now I'm kind of looking at going to Europe next year and I go, you know what, I think I might be able to do this. And then there's all these now like technical challenging problems of, okay, well, how am I going to travel with this? Should I try and remember seeds? How much am I willing to keep on a phone in my wallet versus on my laptop? How, the large funds that I have set aside, do I even want to take that with me? Do I need that? It's kind of, I'm kind of Australian, so I can kind of, that just having an Aussie passport gets you a lot of leeway in terms of getting into and out of trouble. If I was listening to one of your recent episodes, and I think Ben was talking of a story of a Afghan lady who was kind of fleeing the regime that was happening, the Taliban taking back over after the US left, and she memorized her words and was able to get out. And a lot of her stuff got taken, but because she'd memorized her words, she still had something. Yes. Do I need to do that? Yeah. Unlikely. Probably not. Like I'm probably not going to get into that much trouble that I would need to do that. But it's I'm really hoping that I'll be able to start traveling and actually start using it.
Utilizing it. Yeah. Well, I think you're right. Like meetups and BTC Maps is good as well.
Yeah,
so
I think is it Wallet of Satoshi has
I think it has it embedded as well.
A nice map on it.
Yeah. And then there's the BTC map. I think it's btcmaps.org maybe. Whatever the website is anyway. And that's like it's interesting because you'll get like old businesses that like don't exist anymore. So you kind of have to look at it and see like what's real or not. So it'd be good if that was cleaned up a bit, I think, like to make it accurate. So if we could just verify like, like X amount of ticks means like, yes, this place still exists sort of thing. But no, I think it's definitely getting easier and better. I can just see the trajectory of like utilizing it everywhere. Like even, it was so interesting. Like even at the Oshi Gallery, they like at the bar, they didn't have like a setup for BTC. I was like, oh my God. So I ran the owners through like Wallet of Satoshi and they're like, this is so easy. Like, why are we not doing this before? So I think like that aha moment, like when you do it, it's just like, well, that's a Bitcoin place now that you can go to. So years ago, like when Roger Ver was like forcing people to take BTC and then doing spend and replay, very hard to get someone to wait 10 minutes for like a confirmation. Right. And they're like, what is this? Now it's just like green.
Lightning is fast.
Done.
That's one thing I've been really impressed with the last 2 years. Yeah. It is so quick now. It just happened. Yeah, instant, which is really, really cool. Yeah. Well, have you been to Europe at all in the last couple of years?
No, I need to get back actually. So my folks went to retire there actually in Wexford, so it's in Ireland. So they're both from Dublin initially. They've lived out here like forever, and they bought a place in Wexford, which is like, you could call it like the Port Macquarie of Ireland, like for the best weather, but it's freezing cold.
Yeah.
Nice beaches and stuff, but like so they bought into like a new complex that was getting built like in town sort of thing. Moved in, and then it was really funny. Like all the other houses got sold to like the DAES, so it was mum and dad and just nuns like all around. It was like a sitcom. It was really fun. It was super nice people, like, and they looking after it. But yeah, they really forgot like how cold it gets over there. So I went for like Christmas time, and they were like, "We're coming home to Australia. Like, this is ridiculous." So yeah, they've been back, but they've still got that place. So I think we need to go back at some point and probably sort all that stuff out with that. But I'm keen to get back over to Europe at some point. I think my next trip, I want to do, like, I haven't been outside of Australia since the crazy lockdowns and stuff.
2019.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan Andrews. But I think the next trip I really want to go to El Salvador. I think that's like on the cards, like has to happen. And everyone I know who's gone, it's just like, it's amazing. Like, I know Aussies have gone and they're like not coming back. Like, this is where I live now. This is like amazing. So yeah, I want to see that. I think that's on the cards probably before Europe.
Yeah. So I'm kind of, Europe's the main place I want to go, but there's a Bitcoin 2024 is in Nashville, and there's going to be podcasting on the stage. Adam Curry's kind of got like a spot there. Cool. And he was planning on doing a kind of panel type deal. And even if I don't get on the panel, I just want to go there just to meet all of these kind of internet friends I've made over the last 2 years. Yeah. And they're all going to be there. So it's kind of also in my head.
Cool.
The thing with El Salvador is, you definitely need to go there to make sure, because it's still El Salvador. I went to Guatemala, which is right next door to it.
Yeah.
Like, if you think you're going to live in Guatemala City, for example, and have a good time, you're not. It's one of the most dangerous, the place I felt in the most danger, for sure.
Right.
And just walking around, I was seeing so many signs of like, be careful, Kieran. This is not a place where you want to accidentally show your wallet or have your phone out or anything like that. Yeah. There's nice places, and it could be in Antigua, for example. That was a really nice place in Guatemala. Yeah. You could, because it was more touristy, you could kind of feel safe around there. Yeah. So maybe Bitcoin Beach is probably something similar in El Salvador. Yeah. Because it's easy to see the problems in your own country and think, man, this other place has got it so much better. Yeah. And then you go there and it's just, the cultural stuff will just knock you off your ass. You unless you have some heritage, or unless the nomad lifestyle is hard, man. It's really, really hard.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I traveled for 14 months and I was still kind of traveling. I did kind of stay in some places for a month at a time. And it was still just upending your whole life and going somewhere because you think it's better. Yeah. It's a hard one.
No, I don't think I'm doing that. But no, I just want to see it.
Doing the kind of pilgrimage for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd love to do that as well, but just get back to Latin America. I really, really love that place. So it's amazing. Yeah, no, I've never been, so definitely want to check it out at some stage anyway. Try out some of the food, the pretty girls, man. It's got everything.
Sats.
Sats. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about, man? Is there anything you want to know?
I suppose the last big thing that I'm working on, so I've got to wear a lot of hats now.
Really. I had written down here, you were talking about doing a GitHub book last time we were chatting.
Oh, right. Yeah, well, that didn't happen. Yeah.
There was the Coder Dojo. There was the even just teaching, obviously. Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, the big thing that we want to do, so we're setting up a cyber academy. So like what we're building out with this smart classroom, I don't want that to sort of die with the school. So say the principal leaves and I leave, then that's, kind of like the last school. It's like, oh, that was a cool thing for a while, and now it's like disappeared.
So which school is this now?
So I'm at Bonio Primary School. So it's in Bonio, which is very far from Melbourne City sort of thing. So it's pretty rural, but it's so building like a cutting edge learning space in a rural school.
Nice.
It's
Cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
Kids loving it. Like it's so much fun. But basically what I want to do is set up this cyber academy. So there's a lot of like tech graduates that are out there, particularly in cybersecurity, network engineering, that sort of thing, that get kind of thrown into the deep end. And, after they've graduated, they kind of go to enterprise, and it's just like, whoa, like what do I do? So I want to like create a space where they can sort of learn about pedagogy as well. So like, how a learning space sort of works, job shadow me, and then get them into another school to build something similar, right? So like open source template, this is what we're doing. Here's another school. We're setting you up there, and then have all the similar sort of tech and have them interconnected. So they're classrooms as nodes, like on a network of schools sort of thing. So we started setting that up with real-time learning. So my partner with that's Luke Kerr. So we've set up, got actually 2 students now. They're going to come like work with us in the classroom, and then he's got other schools that we're going to put them in and build out a network of schools. So I'm super excited about that as well. So like having this cyber academy, that means we can do like really high-end technical learning, but it's not reliant on one person. So it's not like a single point of failure sort of thing. So we can branch out and then build it out. So like between that and Blockchain Academy and the School of Bitcoin, Digital Playhouse, which I'm on the board for, which is a charity for pretty much anyone who's disadvantaged, like in terms of technology. So if they haven't got the ability for or the access to education for tech, we've got School of Bitcoin's part of that as well, but a space for them to sort of learn about that. And then the school as well. So we've got a lot of stuff going on. But it's all awesome. So there's like nothing that I'm not excited about. So it's cool, man.
Yeah, where would be the best place for people to keep up to date? Yeah, reach out. Keep
my
up
website,
to date.
so kdnolan.com. So I've just got everything listed on there, and my Noster and all the rest of it. So feel free to reach out.